and welcome back to another episode of the Let's Talk Marvel Fan Theories podcast. Today we have another kind of ad-libby episode for you, but also a bit of a step into the Shang-Chi world as we start to ramp up our pre-movie coverage for you guys. This will be the last episode before we do our official predictions for Shang-Chi. So we decided today that we would talk a little bit about some of the characters and organizations that have either been featured in trailers or had a cameo in trailers or will be big players in the movie that we've seen in the MCU before but either haven't seen for a while or haven't been mentioned a little bit. And we're just going to throw out some theories about where they've been. But before we do, we definitely want to just point out that you will notice that we are pronouncing Shang-Chi a little differently than we were in the past. Kevin has come out and spoken a little bit more about the movie, and his pronunciation is way better than ours. We were just going phonetically, but now that we have a better idea, we will be pronouncing it correctly from here on out. So Katie, do you want to kick us off?
So, if you haven't seen the trailers, I recommend going to see it, at least seeing the main one that's come out, because that's really the biggest one you probably need to reference. Obviously, this is not our predictions episode, so we're not going to give our full, breakdown of trailers just yet. We'll be doing that in the next episode coming in about 2 weeks.
Hopefully there will be more trailers by then, too.
Yes.
There's only been one, so...
I thought there was,
there's a long one and then, a short one, but there's usually more by now, so...
Yeah, so, hopefully there will be more, especially, that it will be, roughly 2 weeks before the movie, so I would think there would have to be, and they're releasing mainly all their final trailers at that point, but either way, this will not be the full breakdown, but we do want to just take into account some of these characters. There will be 3. Well, there's 2 characters, 1 organization, and I think by saying organization, you can already figure out it's definitely the Ten Rings organization.
I was gonna say, hint, hint, it's in the title.
Yeah, that we want to bring up, we want to talk about, and consider where the heck have they been, because, especially the Ten Rings organization, actually, everyone but Wong, so we're going to talk about
hasn't
the Ten
been around
Rings
in a long, long time.
And the Abomination, and those 2 have not been around since 2008. Well, the Ten Rings has, there's been other, but at least it's the Iron Man franchise, which wrapped up fairly early in comparison to some of the other Marvel movies we've had since. And then Abomination was literally, the second movie of the MCU?
Yeah, Hulk came out in also 2008, a few
right
months after
Iron Man, yeah. So there has not been another reference or any sort of sightings of him since. So now
it's just, I have to say this right now because we're talking about it. It's so weird to me that they brought this character back. Don't get me wrong, I'm pumped, but it's so strange because they have done everything in their power to sweep that movie under the rug because, there's the whole casting.
Although did they?
Change.
Because General Ross has been a very prominent figure.
That's true. Other than him though, he's really the only thing that's come out of that movie that stayed, because even the actor who plays Hulk did not.
Let's do this. We're gonna start with Abomination.
Yeah.
We'll start by talking about him. Here's a couple of things that I know I brought up to Taylor pretty early on about this. Was my question is from the get-go is he's this big monster. Obviously he wouldn't have been able to hide too much, but whatever. But it's been now in the MCU 15 years because they're in 2023 to our knowledge, because we're assuming Shang-Chi is now we're in some sort of timeline order again. That's the hope
assumption. And the prayer, because I can't keep doing this
I can't handle the multiverse
thing.
and the timelines if we're going back and
prequels
forth.
we're just not
no. But I'm right now the assumption's made that we are in our where we're supposed to be, which is 2023. So for 15 years my whole thing is
where
has this guy been, because he's not exactly easy to hide. And now I also know I brought up to Taylor on multiple accounts. Now I have a weird love for Abomination, not the movie Abomination. I played a Marvel game for a while. He was one of my best fighters. And that's honestly how I really understood the Abomination and who he was and all of that. But the one thing I don't fully know, and I haven't found any confirmation on, is if he can turn back into a human. My thoughts and belief are that he cannot. So if he cannot, he is a terrifying monster, especially the MCU version of him is even more terrifying than any sort of comic or game version that I've seen. And so I'm just trying to understand why this massive lizard has been essentially, like, living for the past 15 years. That he's just been... And I mean, like, General Ross had a meltdown over the Hulk.
Yeah, but somehow he's like chilling with the Abomination.
Yeah. So, I'm just... He's the most intriguing to me, personally, because he's really one that I never thought we'd see back in the MCU.
Yeah.
I genuinely just never thought we'd see him, because he never even crossed my mind. I'm gonna be honest. When I do my Marvel replays, I don't sit there and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch the Hulk. No. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, first of all, it's not even on Disney Plus, so it's not even real.
It's not even easily accessible. But also, like, it's just... I've seen it a couple times. I think that's enough. Like,
yeah.
I don't think... Because they honestly only referenced the movie, like, once, too, with Mark Ruffalo, which is when he was like, the last time I was in New York, I, like, destroyed Harlem or whatever. He makes a comment about it.
But that's
in the
not
Avengers.
New York, isn't that DC?
Or not... No, he said New York.
Well, I know that's what the line he says, but that movie does not take place in New York, I'm pretty sure. No, they're in Virginia, because they're by the military.
Yeah, but don't they end up in New York at one point? He's in the city fighting. Well, I mean, they say it in the Avengers. I don't think their one line in reference to that movie would be wrong. I swear it's New York.
I know at least part of the movie takes place in DC.
That's fine. But his fight scene, where he destroys the city, is in New York.
At the end?
Yeah, the big fight scene with Abomination.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, what are you talking about, dude? That was in New York.
You're right. I was, like, very focused on the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. No. That's why I was like,
because I knew that part was in Virginia.
No, that's why I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, because...
You're right.
They were in New York, and that's why he makes a reference to last time he was there, he destroyed Harlem. But anyway, other than that, like, one reference to the movie, and then General Ross, of course, we really don't have much from him about that movie. I mean, General Ross's daughter, as of right now, is also MIA.
Yeah, where the heck is Betsy?
She's just gone off. Like, she's just non-existent. So...
Is it Betsy or Betty? Sorry, I'm having a...
I think it's Betty.
Okay, I just
because I don't think it's Betsy Ross.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
I was like, I don't think
that name sounds really familiar.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think they would have done Betsy Ross, because you have to think they also have James Buchanan, so...
That's a very common thing to do, though. That's why we have, like, so many presidents.
I know,
for, like,
but that's why I don't think that's probably why it's Betty Ross, not Betsy Ross.
Okay. But
no, I'm just saying, I'm not saying it for that reason. I'm just saying that maybe that's why. It's, like, still a reference, maybe, to it.
Yeah, and if your dad's super, like, in the military, and, like, it would make sense.
Yeah. So, but like I said, he's in it, and I mean, he is, as we've said in a previous podcast, possibly slated to already be on his way to becoming Red Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if she comes back. Part of her storyline in the comics, I mean, at one point she dies. Fun fact, Abomination kills her, so maybe this opens her up. I mean, she doesn't need to be married to Banner for Abomination to kill her.
Yeah, for him to be an antagonist for Red Hulk.
Yeah, and then, I mean, then she's resurrected and becomes Red Hulk. So, I mean...
Also, just, like, remember when she dated Phil from Modern Family was her, like, other boyfriend in the Hulk movie?
Vaguely.
I just, like, had to bring that up.
I do vaguely remember that.
I was, like, wondering, like, if she comes back, like, is she, like, are we gonna see that she's, you know, married? She, like, has a life
this is
now.
15 years later.
Right. And then I was like, I wonder if she married Phil.
Yeah, like, they were not necessarily, I would say, young. I mean, I'm not gonna say they were, like, in their 40s already, but they weren't, like, early 20s either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to add on that,
they were distinguished scientists.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I feel like we're getting a little off from that. But my whole point to all of it was to bring Abomination of All back, I think, is an interesting factor when we do have She-Hulk coming.
Yeah.
And I think I brought this up in the Black Widow podcast episode, talking about how General Ross, part of how he becomes Red Hulk is because he gets sick. And I think...
It seems like they're laying the groundwork for that.
Because they even say in Black Widow, they make a comment about how he's had now 2 of those heart thingies.
Bypass,
I think. And he looks sick in the movie.
Yeah, like he's gone.
Yeah.
He's kind of pale.
He's very tiny looking.
Yeah. He used to be, like, a more imposing figure.
Yeah. So I definitely think they might be laying that groundwork. So I think bringing the Abomination in, I wonder if maybe they will use part of that plot line to also set up Red She-Hulk.
Yeah, but that's not the point here. The point is, where the heck has he been?
If we want to go off the comics, he's just kind of taken by someone called
Space?
The Stranger, and disappears for a while, and eventually works his way back to Earth. So it's possible, maybe he's gone into hiding in the, like, or like not the sewage, but like, you know, like the underground tunnels and stuff in cities and all that.
I have to think he has to be off-world because there's no way you hide that not hulking, but yes, also hulking. That hunking rage machine. Where do you hide that?
Well, especially if he doesn't have the ability to turn back into his human form as we see with Bruce.
Right, but he is more, like...
Murderous?
Yes, but also, like, he's more...
Terrifying looking?
On the spectrum, yes. On the spectrum, he's more like Smart Hulk in that, like, he has more of Blonsky's, like, personality.
He's more aware. Yeah, and I think
He's
part
like more
of that...
in control.
Yeah, I think part of that is because the Abomination is such a monster, and as a human...
Blonsky's the worst.
Yeah, and I think that's why in Endgame, when we see that Bruce and the Hulk have become one, they've, like, accepted the other one for how they are, and they're able to, like...
Coexist.
Yeah. Versus... There was no need to have that, because there was already that coexistence, because they were essentially the same no matter what. He was a monster of a person, and so he made himself into an actual monster.
This is kind of a random tangent off that, but I was reading an article the other day that said that it was less that they, like, accepted one another and more that just, like, Bruce took over all the time and kind of just stifled the Hulk. Because we actually got to see the Hulk's personality in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And he has, like, an actual personality, and he's funny, and he, like, makes jokes, and he, like, likes the attention, and, like, you see, which is, like, the exact opposite of Banner, but when you see Smart Hulk, it's Banner's personality, but Hulk's body, so it's...
But it also does have aspects of it. I mean, like, he's more outgoing when you see, like, the people wanting to take pictures with him.
That's
he's
true.
Like, so I do think they came into a weird compromise after Hulk, like, was like...
No!
Essentially...
He threw a tantrum.
Oh, yeah. Like, he essentially... Yeah. But he was beaten, and I think that and I know, like, people look at Hulk as the stupider end of it because he isn't the scientist within. But, I mean, he was embarrassed, and you could tell that. So, as far as Abomination, where I think he's been, if he wasn't on Earth, I don't know. Somewhere in the... I mean, we keep finding more places, and not that I don't expect there to be a lot in space that we don't know about, but, like, Marvel's just kind of like, here's another planet, and here's another group of people. And so, I mean, he could have been anywhere, to be honest. If he was on Earth, like I said, he had to have been in hiding in tunnels. I mean, he has military training.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he was
like
in hiding.
A mercenary, right?
Yeah, so I really wouldn't be surprised if he was very good at hiding.
I could also see him being a literal body for hire, making money off the fact that he's a literal killing machine. Like, he doesn't need a gun anymore. He will rip your head off your body.
Yeah.
Like, so I could see him, I don't know, working for some shady organization.
Like the 10 Rings.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, take your pick of the organizations that have emerged, like, in the post, blip era.
But even before that, I mean, there were enough that were already shady on their own. I mean, a Hydra would have done anything to get their hands on something like that. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so, I mean, he could have just gone from shady organization to shady organization. He could be working for the Power Broker and we wouldn't even know.
It's funny you say that because I'm not going to bring this up in this podcast episode, but I will bring it up for next week's, or like the next episode for Shang-Chi, the predictions, but there is a possible connection to Shang-Chi with the Power Broker.
Ooh.
But I will not bring that up until our predictions episode, which make sure you guys go listen to that when it comes out. But yeah, so I don't know. Those are my thoughts of where he's at. Some of his, like, I mean, they're gonna have to give us at least a one-liner because you can't just bring a character.
Something.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just bring a character that. I'm not even talking about like a year, couple years. This was 15 years ago. Like, this man's had to have been somewhere for 15 years.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm sure they'll go deeper into it in She-Hulk, because I'm pretty sure he's confirmed for that as well. But I need a little, like, you gotta give me a nibble.
Well, it would make sense he's a part of She-Hulk, because I feel like they're bringing in a lot of the
gamma-radiated beings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know he's not a part of the official Hulk family, but he's, like, the most well-known, I would say,
antagonist.
Villain. Yeah. So, for a Hulk, at least, I should say, of course. But yeah, so I think that's where Abomination's been at. I want to hold the Ten Rings organization off for a second, just because I feel like that's the big...
Yeah.
That's what Shang-Chi is really balanced around. And let's bring up Wong. So now, in the smallest clip possible in the trailer, we see Abomination fighting Wong. Well, now this makes sense. Abomination is the bad guy, Wong the good guy.
My favorite thing, Kevin was, I think it was a Reddit interview that, like, a Reddit Ask Me Anything that Kevin was doing, and someone was like, why does it look like it's Abomination and Wong fighting in that cage? And Kevin's response was, because it is. Because it's Abomination and Wong fighting in that cage. cage.
Yeah, literally. So we've had confirmation that's who it is, because I will say in the trailer, you can't pick up Wong quite as well. Like,
I mean, Abomination's obvious.
Yeah, I mean, but, like, you also don't get a full face of Wong. Like, you kind of, like, get a
and
side
in a mystical,
profile.
like, you see him begin to use magic, but in a movie that you know is going to be mystical, like, that
That's
doesn't
not
necessarily
surprising.
mean it's him. Also, their magic isn't, like, individual per person. Like, his magic looks like Strange, so it could have been anyone
Exactly.
from
and to be fair, I mean, he, like I said, the trailer clip is probably, like, maybe 5 seconds of that.
Yeah.
So it's not really, like, and I think he's getting thrown into the cage. Like, literally. Yeah. So I can't, if you aren't really looking, you might not pick up on some of the subtle things that are like, oh, wait a second, this could be Wong.
Yeah.
Or you watched the trailer 7 times itself, like, and you're just watching it again and again, then you're like, oh, okay. But let's just, how? Like, why is Wong there? Why is Wong using his powers?
Let's clear up something quick. Because we had to look this up too. In case you were wondering, Wong survived the snap. So he's been out there doing his thing for 5 years.
Which is important, and the reason we had to look this up was, to be fair, in Endgame, when everyone comes through the portals, they mix the people who snapped and the people who did not snap.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, because, I mean, obviously you see T'Challa walk through with, like, Okoye and all that. So,
and I don't think Shuri was snapped either.
I don't think Okoye was.
No, we know Okoye wasn't because she went to go help him.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think Shuri was.
Well, she's also in Endgame. Duh.
Yeah.
But I don't think Shuri was either. So, I mean, like, you see people walking through with people who obviously were not snapped. So it kind of was like, oh, well, I don't really know if they were or they weren't, because obviously we only see people get dusted on, it was on Titan, right? They were on Titan. Or no, what was that planet they were on?
They were on Titan.
Okay, I was like, that's what I thought. We really only see it on Titan, we see it in Wakanda, and then we see Fury at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, we see people behind him getting, like, dusted. Oh, that is, like, ominous as all heck. I hate that scene. Like, I love it, but I hate that scene.
It's really stressful.
Yeah, right? Because it's, like, the scariest thought. It always reminds me...
Like, what if you're on an airplane and your pilot gets, like, snapped?
But not even that. It's gonna be, like, to all the people who were snapped back and blipped back...
Onto an airplane that was no longer
exactly.
there.
I was like, can you think of the amount of people that might have accidentally died just because they were literally blipped into the air and there was no airplane? Like, I always love when people, like... Well, I just always love when people talk about it, because they're like, what about if you...
Logistically, how does this work?
Yeah, because they were like, what if you were in a building that maybe the building got demolished?
Yeah.
What if, like, people
Do you drop 20 stories? Like, I just need, like...
I need some closure on this.
I need a snap, blip,
These
handbook.
are, like, my new ways to die that I'm scared of. Like, that is what this has caused. And so many people have come up with so many things. But it's, like, all valid.
Yeah. I need them to, like, write a little handbook about the logistics of the snap and the blip, and I need them to give it to me, and I will read it from front to back 5 times, internalize all of the rules, and then be fine.
Exactly. Because I just, like, I don't know. Like, all the heroes I get, whatever, they kind of knew where all the heroes were. So when they got, because most of them were at least with other heroes to some degree. But I'm just, like, sitting here and I'm like, what about, like, everyone else, though?
Yeah.
Or we see all those people who, like, all those ships that are surrounding the Liberty, the Statue of Liberty. And I'm like, well, there would have been people on them. So what? Did they just blop in the middle of the ocean? Because, you know what I mean? Like, honestly, and then obviously people come up with the embarrassing theories of, like, what if you were on the toilet and then you come back and there was someone already on the toilet? You know, like, there's obviously then the embarrassing ones. Or, like, you were naked in the shower.
Yeah, like, oh my god, that's my fear.
I will say that's one of my worst fears.
Oh, and then you come back and there's, like, another one that, there's, like, another person.
Right? That's that's the love story right there. That's how you fell in love. No, and I know it's a little off topic, but it had to have been said. I just had to get that off my back.
I've had strong feelings about the lack of, like, rules that happened.
Like, there's, like, if you're gonna show Monica coming back in the exact chair where she was blipped,
5 years later.
I hate that they call it the blip, because it sounds like it should be
a bad thing.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's bringing people back.
It should be the snap and the return. Like, why couldn't it just be the snap and the return?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so anyway, I know that got a little off topic, but I had to bring up some of my issues.
We have thoughts about everything.
But to your point, he was not snapped. So he was, I have to assume, for 5 years, he was defending the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Probably in the one in New York, right?
Yeah, the one that's strange, because he stayed down to defend it to begin with.
Right.
So I would think he probably stayed. So Shang-Chi is obviously after the blip, so maybe this is now...
At least we're hoping. hoping.
It seems it, though. And I know I brought that point up to you as well before, that I didn't know if this was during it or not.
I agree that it is probably after, but we cannot confirm.
I'm gonna 90% it and say I'm 90% sure it's after the
I'm with you on that number.
But, so I would assume he was definitely, like, doing that. My thoughts are now, though, that Doctor Strange is back. Okay, here's my anger. And I know we're getting Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness in March, but I'm really annoyed that I don't know what Doctor Strange is doing.
Yeah.
Because he is the Sorcerer Supreme, and I'm, like,
he's like the big dude.
Yeah, and you know what? I brought this up when we were watching WandaVision.
They're not that far.
I can't think that man just was like, oh, that's fine, what she's doing in New Jersey.
Yeah, she's just, like, mind controlling all these people with her chaos magic, but I'm cool with it.
The man's literally intercepted Thor and Loki within 5 minutes of being on Earth, looking for their dad, because he's like, I have to keep an eye out for people who are causing threats.
He's so type A, and I love it.
But then Wanda runs an entire town
for a week.
Was it only a week?
I think it was only a week.
So much longer. But either way, she runs an entire town, has a bunch of people hostage, and, like, literally there's, like, agents involved in everything, which are dealing with mystical things that they don't understand.
Out of their league.
And this man's just like, I don't know where I am, I'm just chilling somewhere. Like, I'm just having a good time.
I'm just stay in the city because New Jersey is New Jersey.
Yeah, like...
Sorry. Sorry, New Jersey.
But... I don't know, like, I guess that's kind of what frustrates me is while we're going through all of this, I'm like, but where's Doctor... All I need, I don't care about anyone else, I'm like, just at least tell me Doctor Strange is chilling.
Name drop him in the show. I mean, they obviously don't say Strange, but they say
she's more powerful than the Sorcerer
So you're
Supreme.
gonna name drop his title, and then you're not gonna tell me where he is?
To be fair, for WandaVision, there was the rumor that he was supposed to be a cameo, and he was supposed to appear. However, COVID messed that up. I did hear that rumor.
But do they not just, know how to write in a line?
I know, then you fix it.
It's called adapting to the times, my friends.
But I just need to know where this man is, because it's frustrating the living heck out of me that things are happening, and he's just, like, not there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because, like, for me, I'm like, okay, so if he's back defending, why is Wong using his magic for fighting? Unless there's a bigger reason for it.
Yeah. But it seemed to me, I mean, I could be misinterpreting this, but that whole setup seemed to me like a betting ring. Like Sakaar.
Yeah.
Like, that's the vibe I got.
And here's a little hint to the possible predictions episode, Mad Report.
Don't even. I can't. But all I'm going to say is, that's not above board. That behavior and that activity.
Unless he was there looking for something else. And he got, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the Ten Rings is mystical and could be a very big threat to all other things.
Why were they allowed to do their thing if the Ancient One was out here supposed to be, like...
I don't know.
I mean, we all know the Ancient One was corrupt, but, like... She still was supposedly trying to do the right thing.
I don't know. Well, and I think this is what, I mean, I'm about good on Wong because I don't know where he's been. I'm going to be honest. I don't even have the predictions of where he's been. I assumed, like I said, he was protecting the Sanctum Sanctorum. Post-blip, I couldn't tell you. Maybe he's got a new job. I don't know.
I'm trying to, like, think if there's something from Strange that could, like, come back and get him, but, like, even, what's Chiwetel Ejiofor's, character's name?
Mordo?
Yes, like, it's not even that he could have, like, teamed up with Mordo, because Mordo hates sorcery.
And I also do just want to point out, and this is a little unrelated, but you just brought up Mordo. I thought he was supposed to be the big thing for the next Strange.
I don't think they really knew that they were gonna get as big as they did. Like, I think they knew the MCU was gonna get this big, but I don't...
They're gonna finish him, and they're gonna finish off his plot line. What
if Mordo's part of Ten Rings now?
That would make a lot of sense. But no, they use mystical... I don't think he would support that.
Yeah, but here's the thing that I never got. Was that he does not support, like, magic and, like, the use of sorcery. And so he takes it from other people, but has magic while he's doing it. So, like, it's incredibly hypocritical. So I guess I find that, like, in those situations, like, you can justify... Well, right, but you can also justify almost any action.
Yeah.
So
maybe, I don't know. That would be an interesting person. Especially that would really make more sense to maybe why Wong was involved.
Yeah. And if he was tracking Mordo because they knew he was a threat.
Into a situation. That's what I mean. I can't see Wong just being out there like, let me use my magic to, like, do a fighting ring.
Yeah, because he's, like, so, like, he's not, like, super strict. Like, he's not, like, Mordo level strict, but he definitely takes it seriously.
Yeah, I mean, he always took it more seriously than Strange, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, let's get to the big question, which is the Ten Rings.
Yeah.
So
let's do a little recap. Where have we seen the Ten Rings? Take it away, Katie.
So first off, obviously, if you haven't seen any of the Iron Mans recently, Iron Man, the
yeah,
very
you should
first
definitely
one,
go watch.
Go
that
rewatch
again,
those,
the whole trilogy,
because the Ten Rings, especially in the first one, is the organization that kidnaps Tony Stark.
Mm-hmm.
Now, keep in mind, they also were hired by Obadiah. So there was a connection there by all of that. Now, obviously, this is probably a much different section of the Ten Rings organization because they are out of China.
Yeah.
Yes. And this section, I don't remember what area of the Middle East they were.
I don't remember exactly.
But this area was a more Middle Eastern area.
Yeah.
So there's probably little pockets of them.
Probably like cells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like trying to think of the word for it. So definitely connection there. Obviously, if you watch all the Iron Mans, there's kind of quite a few connections throughout them, but the first one's really the big focus of it.
In a real sense, because it's used fakely, obviously. In
I was just about to say, because in the third Iron Man, we see the Mandarin.
The faux Mandarin.
Which ends up being Trevor, who is obviously not the real Mandarin. We find out the real Mandarin is in fact Shang-Chi's dad. In the comics, this is not true. They actually merged his father and the Mandarin character into one. But in the MCU, all you need to worry about is the Mandarin is Shang-Chi's father. Now, ever since Iron Man, we actually have seen the Ten Rings a few more times. We just might not have noticed or didn't know.
It's been very subtle.
Yes. So actually, this is still an Iron Man one, but in the second Iron Man, Ivan, the one from Russia who goes to kill Tony Stark. Yeah, who goes to kill Tony Stark on the racetrack. In one of the best scenes of the MCU.
So good!
Not even the fight, just like him, Happy, and Pepper arguing in the middle of all of it is just pure chaos.
When Happy's driving her the wrong way on the racetrack and Pepper looks like she literally just wants to die, but also knows she could die at any moment.
The entire situation is so fun. And
Give me my suit!
Yeah, when he's trying to get the suit and Happy keeps trying to hit Ivan, and it was just, she's screaming. It was just pure chaos, and I love it.
I love that trio. They are like the original golden trio.
They really are.
And
they really are. But they're like rival to the Cap Quartet from the Winter Soldier. Honestly. Like literally perfect. But it has been confirmed that the man who gives Ivan his passport to get into the U.S. is actually a Ten Rings member. So they clearly had their hand in there. Once again, trying to kill Tony Stark. Makes sense.
But also for a profit.
Yeah.
Everything they do is for a profit. Yeah.
And then I think the really interesting one is, now you gotta fill me in on names because it's been a while since I've watched the Ant-Mans, but the man who becomes the Yellow Jacket.
I believe his name is Darren.
Okay.
His last name very much escapes me, but I'm pretty sure the first name's Darren.
I can picture him.
He's the bald guy, friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can picture him. I mean, he becomes the main villain, so like... Yeah. But I honestly just cannot remember. I just really haven't. I love Paul Rudd, and I don't have anything against the Ant-Man movies. They're just not the ones I tend to rewatch the most.
Yeah, agreed.
But either way, when he is giving some sort of a presentation at one point, there's actually a man there who has a Ten Rings, like the symbol of the Ten Rings tattooed on the side of his neck, which is interesting because
also a really cool tattoo, because that's a really cool symbol.
Yeah, it really is kind of cool. But I think something that needs to get pointed out is we're seeing them in a lot of areas where there's very progressive tech.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that's really interesting to point out. And I feel
especially for a very mystical organization whose leader literally has, like, magical rings. Yeah. Like, you don't always, like, conflate the two, but it's almost the same way that, like, Tony and Strange work well together, like, in their own kind of facial hair bros way, you know?
Well, because one's got the magic and the other one's got the armor, essentially. Yeah. So I definitely think that's pretty interesting. And I do feel like there's another place where we've seen them pop up. And my apologies that I'm not remembering at the present moment, but I believe it's another area where there's a tech-related...
Didn't you tell me something with the helicarriers in Winter Soldier?
It might be. I don't
That
remember.
one's unconfirmed.
Yeah, that is an unconfirmed moment. Do not quote any of us on that. Just because I truly do know there's probably another moment, but because I feel like there's a third one, and I just at the moment can't remember it. But, point being made, we've been seeing them, and I will say, I mean, I feel personally the Ant-Man's relatively recent compared to Iron Man. Don't ask me the
2017,
dates.
2018?
No, because that's the second
no.
Ant-Man.
Oh, yeah, because he came out before Civil War, so he would have been 2015.
Yeah, or at least 2016 early.
I think he was in 2015, actually.
But either way, it's still a lot more recent than the first Iron Man, even. Mm-hmm. And obviously, you have, like I said, you have the fake Mandarin, but that's but
it's still the Ten Rings imagery. It's still their symbol. Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting that we've still seen them past Iron Man, and I think that's important to note as well.
Yeah. Because even in that little featurette, Kevin has said, like, yeah, we really liked this organization. We knew we wanted to bring Shang-Chi in, like, because, we were creating Iron Man, and, like, that was important, but they always knew, and, like, in the back of their minds that they wanted to bring in this character and, like, bring in this organization. Yeah. So I think that's why they've, like, created these little Easter eggs for us so that we don't completely lose track of them, even though it's been so long.
Well, and I think that makes our job easier because we can simply say, well, here they have been.
Yeah. They're clearly, like, amassing technology and information.
And to be fair, we saw them so much in the Iron Man trilogy because Iron Man at that time was doing a lot to take down the terrorist cells and all of those. However, he clearly grew beyond that when he was starting to take down, Space Invaders.
And go through wormholes.
A purple grove. Because you, threw me off by saying wormholes, and I
a purple grove. What species is Thanos? A purple grove.
You know what? It works. And everyone knew what I was talking about.
He's a big, angry, shriveled raisin.
Angry, so you can't speak either.
He's an angry, shriveled raisin.
Yeah.
With a lot of anger issues.
Yeah. So, well, I think I've said before, I've heard a rumor that he, is a weird mutant version of his home.
Yeah, wasn't he,
He, was wrong for his own planet to begin with, which is what makes him so strong and stuff, because he actually, he's, some mutated version of Titan people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's been confirmed or anything, but,
I did read
that's
that
definitely
too.
a theory.
Yeah.
Which makes also sense why people are like, well, we really don't agree with you killing half of our population.
Yeah, right? This wacko who's, a mutant is gonna come out here and be like, let me just, kill half the population. Problem solved.
When you could have just made more food.
Also, the fact that he, killed also animals and plants, so he also cut the resources in half.
Reverse Noah-arced a little bit.
But he also, I'm saying his whole point was, there's not enough resources. But then he also halved the resources, so, people, proportionally it was the same issue.
Plants were not killed in the making of Infinity War. To my knowledge, I don't think they killed plants.
Yeah, plants and animals also died. He killed half of the life, be it sentient or not.
Well, that just feels weird.
But also, so counterproductive.
Yeah, because he just left half the population with half of the...
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Proportionally, it's the exact same thing. Except now, instead of that many, I guess half the people
literally retired to go be a farmer. So
I know. He just, had so many issues.
But anyway, moving on. Clearly, Tony graduated on two bigger threats, especially after his trilogy, which is why I actually think they pushed his trilogy out the way they did. Because I think they were just get the small things over with because he needs to deal with the bigger stuff. Because if we're being fair, the first two Iron Mans in timeline order are, well, I don't think there's any movies that aren't on Disney Plus in between those two, are right next to each other. They come back to back.
Do they?
Yeah. It's Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, then Thor.
I think I watched Thor before Iron Man.
Yeah.
Because I think they happened the same
week. Same time.
Roughly, so, there's a little bit of leeway there.
I think technically Iron Man 2 comes first just because Coulson goes off in the middle of Iron Man 2 to deal with the hammer situation initially, and then Thor.
You're right,
yeah.
You're
so
right.
it technically...
So maybe I did watch it in that order.
It's a couple days difference.
It's Fury's big week.
Yeah, it's not that different, but it's a few days if you want to be technical. And then I think Iron Man 3 is not that far after.
It's after Avengers.
Well, after Thor's Avengers. So there you go. I feel like that was part of the reason they pushed it out, because they were like, Tony's going to be doing the bigger stuff now. Which is kind of why I think, to us, the Ten Rings organization seemingly took a back seat, because Tony was no longer, and I don't want to sound weird by saying this, but dealing with these more minuscule issues when we were having Space Invaders.
Yeah, issues that an army could take care of that you don't necessarily need a quote-unquote superhero for.
You did have War Machine.
Yeah.
Who remained active in the military using his suit.
Exactly.
So there's that, of course. So that's why I think it's almost easy to be well, it's not really a where were they, because they were around. They were probably doing plenty of, weird things. And really the only reason we're going to see them now is because Shang-Chi is the the Mandarin's child.
Yeah, the heir to the proverbial throne, if you will.
So, like, that's really the main reason why we're seeing it now. It's not like it's coming back and maybe it'll be a threat after this. Who knows? I doubt it, just because I assume Shang-Chi is going to try and take down the entire organization. That seems like the gist of kind of the movie.
Or reform it if he becomes the leader.
Something.
Into a force of good.
Yeah, something. But I mean, I don't think we'll see the Ten Rings come out of this as an ongoing organization.
As a threat.
Yeah. In the terrorist department. But that's why I think, like, this one makes our job the easiest, because it's like, well, there's been a couple hints of where it's been. And to be fair, to my point, I mean, definitely by the second half of Phase 2 and by Phase 3, we were dealing with cosmic threats at that point. We were, unless it was an origin story, like Black Panther, where that wasn't the same because that was an origin story, or like even Doctor Strange, which I know was mystical but like different. We were dealing with bigger threats then.
Well, I mean, Dormammu is a way bigger threat than...
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking of like the other dude, but I was just saying like ignoring...
Kaecilius?
Yeah, but I was like ignoring like the mystical thing, because I know that has the same thing in common with Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. But yeah, so I feel like that one's not too hard. And I mean, like our focus was on the big stuff. They were doing the smaller stuff, I think.
Behind the scenes.
And
like Hydra. That's how Hydra hid in
And
S.H.I.E.L.D.
you know what? They probably freaking thrived during the snap. And I wonder if maybe we'll get a slight, maybe one-off line towards maybe there was a connection between when Hawkeye was Ronin, or Ronin? Yeah, okay. And what he was doing over in Japan, China, I don't remember.
Somewhere in East Asia.
Yeah. And maybe those people he was after having a connection to the Ten Rings. I think that would be kind of interesting to tie that in.
It would make sense, too, with the Hawkeye show coming out soon.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I think that could be really interesting to tie that in. And just, like I said, even just a little small one-liner about... like, maybe someone who had gone after some of their men and blah, 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 wherever they were, and, you know, maybe if I rewatch it, maybe they had. To be fair, I don't really rewatch Endgame for fun.
It's a tough one.
It's also a long movie, and...
It really is. You gotta, like...
You gotta power through
breaks.
Well, and you gotta power through the entire first hour, because in the nicest of ways, they dragged that whole hour on.
Yeah, that could have been a solid 35 minutes ago.
So that was rough. And then, like, you get to Nat dying, and then you're like, oh my god. like, this is a lot.
You basically just spend a whole lot of movie waiting for the last battle.
Yeah, and that's what we were all waiting for. So it's like, that's the hardest part.
The full-on Avengers assemble, like...
Yeah, with everyone, so... I just think that would be kind of interesting if maybe they even made a small reference, just so we can be like, okay, this makes also a little more sense on why he was just, like, slaughtering these dudes. I mean, obviously, they seem to be bad guys, but, like, we have no context to them. So how did he even know anything about them?
Yeah.
So...
unless he still has access to, like, S.H.I.E.L.D. Well, all the S.H.I.E.L.D. files were...
Yeah, but that's also, in, like, 2014? So, I mean, to be fair, it's been quite a few years.
But he's also... I'm just saying he's a spy, and yes, he has outdated information, but that doesn't mean he can't figure out the rest through the network of contacts he probably has.
Oh, no, I agree. I'm just saying, I think it would be pretty interesting, since we do see him land somewhere over in that area, to possibly have a tie to it. Because
I think it would be too.
Those organizations definitely thrived in these moments, and I think that would be a great way to complement it.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Power Broker.
Yeah, so, I mean, like I said, they made our job easy, because you can pretty much fill in some of those holes with the Ten Rings pretty well. It's the other two characters that are a little... Well, Wong
isn't as bad.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to start with Abomination, because he's really that character that came out of left field, that it's like, where'd you come from?
Total wild card.
Yeah. And then Wong was like 50-50, and then Ten Rings is like about 95.
Yeah.
Like, we kind of know much of where they've been. But, I mean, I think we've covered some of the biggest characters that we're going to see. Obviously, to our point earlier, this is not our predictions episode. That will be coming out about 2 weeks before the movie will.
So in 2 weeks. Because the movie's a little more than a month away.
Essentially.
I'm buying my tickets tomorrow, everybody.
Exactly. So essentially, that'll be coming out, and that's when we would do our full breakdown of the trailer. Because I will not lie, I've been holding my tongue on things that I wanted to say, and I was
hopefully there's another one.
Yeah, or at least something a little more, even if it's not a full trailer.
Because I think we had I mean, obviously we know what happened with Black Widow and the multiple release date changes.
Loki had a lot of trailers.
I mean, so did WandaVision have a lot. I thought Falcon and Winter Soldier also had a lot.
WandaVision's was very Loki's was fairly misleading, but WandaVision's, like, you had no clue what was going to go on in that show.
I thought that Falcon Winter Soldier was a little more straightforward.
Yeah.
But they also had multiple trailers, and that was a show.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that, like, 2 weeks out, you're not going going to have at least multiple trailers for your movie. And the fact
Yeah.
that they're dropping featurettes and interviews with Kevin tells me something's coming.
Yeah, I agree.
So hopefully
where's
we'll
that
have
No Way
that.
Home trailer?
Oh my god, never coming.
Like, I don't know if they remembered we have a movie in December.
Hello, we have another movie in November
Yeah, but
that
at least
also
there's
doesn't have.
There's been a trailer.
I'm saying more than one.
Yeah, but at least there's been a trailer. And that also dropped, 2 months ago already?
Yeah.
And they haven't dropped the New Way Home, maybe. The No Way Home trailer. Whatever. I'm not even gonna get on that. If you follow us on Twitter, as you should, I've just been constantly retweeting that today might be the day, and then it's not. And
There's
I'm
just,
never mind.
so much, fake. Not even. I just, don't even know.
But anyway, I think we've covered most of what we need to cover in this episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed everything that we had to say.
And as always, please remember to subscribe to our podcast so that you know when we have new episodes. We're on most of the major platforms, so you can check out our Anchor FM page where you can find links to the platform of your choice. And also, don't forget to follow our blog, where right now we're doing a lot of meme content and then also supplemental content to the episodes that we have right now on a bi-weekly basis.
And I know I said this a little bit before, but make sure you guys are following on our Twitter. It is Let's Talk MFT. It's fun. That's all I have to say.
I enjoy it.
We have a good time. So, definitely follow us on that. I definitely make sure to post the episodes when they go up. I post the blog posts when they go up. So, if you want all your information to at least come in one concise package, follow us on Twitter and you will get it all at once. And make sure you're watching the Shang-Chi, my speech impediment.
Shang-Chi?
Hold on, the speech impediment is having a moment. My S's and CH's and SH's are just coming out. Shang-Chi. Make sure you're watching the trailer. Make sure you're watching any more trailers that come out.
Featurettes, interviews with Kevin.
And of course, What If is coming out in 2 weeks.
No.
It's
One week from...
It's less than 2 weeks,
1
I
week
know.
from Wednesday.
Oh, I did not
Comes
think it was
out
that
August
close.
11th.
Well, What If is coming out. We have yet to really know what impact it might have on the MCU, but also make sure you guys are keeping up with that, because as always, Marvel just blew your mind, so let's talk about it.